Tried to kill me over a boy. Story time. Okay, backstory. Me and my friend was best friends for 4 years. But when we went to high school, everything changed. My friend, let's call her Janine. So she had told me a long time ago that she had a crush on this boy at our school named Kyle. He was one of the most liked boys at the school. I mean, everyone had a crush on him, even me. So I didn't think it was a big deal when she told me or how serious she was about it. So one day at lunch, me and Janine was sitting with our 2 other friends, Lisa and Lena. They were twins, by the way. That's when Kyle and a group of his friends came to our table. And this was so out of the normal. Like, Kyle and his friends never spoke to us, looked at us, or even noticed that we existed. And the crazy part is that we've all went to the same schools since elementary. Kyle said what's up to us, and we all blushed and said, "Hey," like the little schoolgirls we were. And he looked at me and said, "Can you please help me with my algebra test?" He said something about if he doesn't raise his grades by next semester, he was going to get kicked off the basketball team. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you guys that I was a nerd. I made all A's and was definitely top 2 in my grade. Not to brag, but this is one of the reasons why he might have asked me to help him. So anyways, I told him yes, I would tutor you. And then he said, okay, I'll see you in the library after school then. I was literally screaming inside, like the cutest boy at our school asked me to study with him. But of course I kept my composure in front of him and his friends. But as soon as they left, the twins was like, "Oh my gosh, you are so lucky." But when I looked at Janine, she looked so bothered. She got up and left the table immediately. But I paid it no mind. So after school, I was leaving my class. I ran into Janine, and she was like, "Hey, I need to speak to you." I was like, "Sure, what's up?" She was like, "You're not really going to tutor him, are you?" I was like, "Yeah, why not?" Then she said, "Well, you know how I feel about him." I was like, "I'm just tutoring him, Janine. It's no big deal." She was like, "You promise?" And I was like, "I promise." And we twisted pinkies. But oh, was I wrong. I ended up crushing hard for this boy. We spent every day after school with each other. It was kind of hard not to fall for him. I was in love, but he didn't know it. I played it cool, and Janine always called me after tutorials just to ask me a million questions about him. I mean, this girl was obsessed with him, to say the least. So one time when we was in the cafeteria, me, Janine, and the twins, that's when I saw him. I caught Kyle staring at me from across the room. When he saw me see him, he quickly turned away. I asked myself, why was Kyle staring at me out of all the girls in the cafeteria? Why was he looking at me? Could Kyle possibly like me? Of course not. I'm definitely not even his type. He dates cheerleaders, and I'm basically a nerd. But I spent the rest of the time listening to Janine talk about how she is going to marry him when she graduates. So after school, I went to the library per usual to study with Kyle. But today, Kyle was acting different. He seemed nervous. Why is he nervous? Then he looked at me and said, "I have to tell you something." I thought he was going to tell me he didn't want to study with me anymore. But instead, he told me that he had feelings for me. I was so shocked, and then he kissed me. I kissed him back. It was magical. But immediately after, I felt guilty. So I got up and left and went home. All I kept thinking was, Janine is going to be so mad at me. So as soon as I got home, I called and told her everything. As soon as she learned that he kissed me, she hung up on me. I tried to call her back, but she would not pick up the phone. So the next day at school, I was waiting at lunch, and I seen her and the twins come in, but they completely ignored me and sat at another table. They wouldn't even look at me, so I ate by myself. The twins had turned on me. After school, I was heading to the library. As I was walking down the stairs, someone quickly came up behind me and pushed me. I tumbled down 2 flights of stairs and broke my back. And when the school checked the cameras at the school to catch who did it, come to find out it was Janine that pushed me. Bro, she tried to kill me over a crush who never even gave her the time of day.
Story time on how I almost died. Last summer, me and my friends went to the beach Every summer, me and my friends would go to the beach. I usually wear a life jacket because I really can't swim. But this time, I accidentally forgot my life jacket, and the drive to the beach was about 2 hours, so we did not have time to go back home to get it. So I was in the water without any support. Then one of my friends had a float and asked if I wanted to use it since I left my jacket. I was so happy. I was like, cool, this float is going to help me. So I said, sure. But while I was on the float, I noticed the waves was pulling me toward the deep end of the ocean, so I was trying to paddle with my hands. But out of nowhere, a huge wave came over me and completely knocked me off my floaty. My feet couldn't even touch the bottom, and I couldn't feel where the floaty was. At this point, I was drowning. It was terrifying. I don't know what happened after that. I just know that I woke up on the sand with a strange man giving me mouth-to-mouth CPR. So, yeah.
The time I almost died, I was playing in the backyard with my friend at the time, and she came up with the idea to climb on top of the house. So when we got up to the roof, she dared me to jump off the roof into the car, and I was like, nope, I'm not doing that. Then she started teasing me and said that I was a scaredy cat. I was 9 at the time, and the only thing I hated to be called was scary. So I took it as a challenge. So like a crazy person, I decided to go for it. So I jumped off the roof and landed on the edge of the car. And I ended up rolling off the car onto the ground. I ended up breaking my leg in 2 places. But the craziest part is, I was inches away from missing the car and landing straight on the ground. I could literally die. So my mama was mad at me, and she was like, why would you ever jump off the roof onto the car? Like, what was you thinking? Do you know that the car is hard? And I was like, yeah, but my friend dared me. So my friend ended up getting in trouble. My mom went to her house. So my mom knocked on her door, and her parents came to the door, and she was like, do you know that your daughter dared my child to jump off the roof? And they was like, no, my child would never do that. And she was like, can you go get your daughter so I can speak to her? So they ended up getting her daughter, and she came downstairs, and my mom was like, now tell the truth, young lady. Did you ask my child to jump off the roof? And she was like, yeah, I did. So my friend ended up being punished for 3 weeks, and I was punished for 2 weeks, but I got a whooping. But I'm so happy that I didn't die.